What is up, rockers? We are back. The
Rockers.
130, episode 130 of the Grunge Bubble podcast. My name is Ethan Shalloway, joined by Chris Salona. We are a few kilos away from, a few points away from my hang clean max, Chris, at 133. I think is my max in hang
Really,
clean.
133? You haven't done 140 keys yet, huh?
No, I don't think so. I think the most, it was right under. It's like right under 300 pounds. I mean, I should have did it this year, but I didn't really max. But that was back in Pittsburgh days. I think it was like 133. So a few more episodes because this one is 130.
Nice.
Yes, as I said, my name is Ethan Shalloway, joined by Chris Salona. And this is the part of the episode where we ask how you're doing. So, Chris, how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm glad, we're getting into PR territory here, which is always good. I have a little ways to go to get to mine. But Ethan, we've had a hell of a last few days. We spent the last couple of days together, and as it stands, today is the only day really that we have to record this episode, which will be coming out on September the 18th. So it's just one thing after another. The tide ebbs and flows. You get your low tide, your high tide, and there's a big wave coming in. We just have to kind of ride it out. But all things considered, I feel much more sufficiently recovered from what we just put ourselves through the last couple of days than I did earlier this morning when I woke up. So I'm feeling all right, like starting to get back in the game a little bit. So how are you?
I'm doing well.
Awesome.
You said we spent a few days together, but really it was less
just
than
one
24
day,
hours.
wasn't
It was less
Holy
than
shit,
24
you're right.
hours, Chris. So I got
Oh
in at
my
like
God.
11:30 Saturday, and we were
You're
after
right.
left
We were
town
gone
at
by 10.
That was less than 24 hours.
Wow.
I know. Pretty unreal. Yeah, there's a lot that went on.
What
We were
we've
visited by
seen
the
was
Hat
unreal.
Man. We were visited by the Hat Man, both physically and emotionally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm doing well. I got today moved. I was going to work today, but I got moved to tomorrow, this job, because of the rain. So that was really nice because I didn't have anything to get up and do today specifically.
Must be nice.
The rest of the week will be busy. So yeah, it's a good time to record a podcast. 1 week. We haven't done a Monday recording, I feel like, in a while. Maybe we probably have, but it feels
It's been a while.
It feels like we've been cutting it close every time, and then we were like,
Yeah, this will be good. So we're recording this on the 11th, which episode 129 just came out this morning. So we're getting ahead of it a little bit. But this is, as we say, this is the time of the year we've got a lot of really, really exciting things to talk about. So this episode comes out the week that In Utero celebrates its 30th anniversary. So we'll be talking about that a little bit, commemorating 30 years of Nirvana's final studio album. We're also going to get into this weekend that we spent together a little bit. We saw some shows, and we've got some discourse and some discussion, some debate perhaps, about crowd etiquette, just about how you can conduct yourselves and the impact that the crowd can have on your experience, as we ran the gamut. But, goes without saying that this show is possible. We've made it to 130 episodes with the help, the love, and the support of everyone who listens and everyone who lends their money or their time or their endorsement of this show to others. And that starts with the people that financially support this show. We wouldn't be able to do this without their financial contributions. And most notably, it is the people over on Patreon that sustain us. So we have a $2, a $5, and a $10 tier. You can choose any of those levels at which to support us. And each month, a little bit of your money goes to us to make sure that we can run this show, that we can have this podcast up on the internet, on your streaming service, that we can use the subscriptions that we need to do this podcast every single week. And we're very thankful for everyone that chooses to support us at that level, especially the top tier supporters who choose to give $10 per month to help the Grunge Bible podcast roll. At the time of this recording, the $10 per month tier, the members of that tier are Alexis Shannon, Jade Mercado, Carlene Salona, Laura and Irene, Jamie Lynn, Fuck Soup, The Blue Owl, Doug Endy, What the Fuck's Up Denny's, Rachel Corning, Millie, Kara K, Nikki Six, Chris LSMS, Black Hole Sean, Seattle 4 Fanboy from New Jersey, Fresh Tendonitis, Alex Long, Captain Hightop, Brother Nature, Faith Bittner, Granny Grunge, Julie Van Siever, Epona, Corden Stewart, Keith White, Gochu John, D-Boat, Eric Berry, Sherry Matthews, Pile of Punk, and Eddie Vedder got me through my second divorce, who has the distinction of being the top tier Patreon supporter who has seen a show with both of us.
Mm-hmm. Both of us, not separately, but simultaneously. We were all
At the same
together this
time,
past
very
weekend.
recently on September the 9th.
Yeah, 9/9. Yeah, so thank you everybody who chooses to support us. All levels equal. Thanks, I'm giving. Some people just want to give more, which is fine.
And thanks to everyone who's purchased merch.
Yep, and some of you out there are looking for that extra nudge. So here it is. Today's your day. Hop in there, get you some skin in the game. A little $5 action. Split the middle.
And the thing is too, Ethan. So this episode's out on the 18th. So we're 10 days away from the birthday zone for both of us. So if you'd like to wish us a happy birthday, $2 is a pretty cheap birthday gift, but it will warm our hearts more than sufficiently. So we both we share the 28th of September as a birthday. So that would be a lovely birthday present. So just putting it out there,
Just putting it out there.
It's a subtle little hint.
Now I was thinking about it, Chris. You asked me how it was. We also, the NFL started, and I'm a Chiefs fan.
We gotta talk.
I'm a Chiefs fan, and you're a Patriots fan, and we're both in 2 fantasy leagues. And combined with all those there's 6 teams, the 2 teams I manage, and then the Chiefs and yours, we went 0-6.
0-6.
This gotta be the first time in history.
This is really tough. Yesterday,
I hate it.
I was really overtired. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little hungover. My soul was worn a little thin. And the losses just kept on coming. The Chiefs lost on Thursday to what I would say is an inferior opponent, although it's early to tell, right? The Lions could be very good. The Patriots did what they've done ever since Tom Brady left. They put themselves in the hole. They remember how to play football. They make you believe a little bit, and then they just become completely ineffectual on offense. And then the fantasy football, taking 2 losses in the same week, there were no redeeming factors for it, but it's a tough way to start the year.
Right. Yeah, but it's the first week.
It's early.
Stars kind of underperformed. A couple people overperformed. A lot of game tape, a lot of preparation going into that first week. So I'm not worried.
Absolutely.
Let's let the week start coming and see who shows up every week like we do, Chris. We don't miss.
No, that's the thing.
And we're still here, and we're done missing on the football side of it, but we don't miss. That's why we're here.
We do not miss. So Ethan, I think it's time we discuss a little bit of In Utero, and we did a full album song by song review with background on the album. We did an episode on that on this podcast way back, episode number 45, which came out in January of 2022. It feels like it was much more recently than that. So if you're looking to more properly commemorate the anniversary of In Utero, now that it's the 30th anniversary, go back to that episode 45 that we did. If I remember correctly, I think we did a pretty solid job with that one, and I enjoyed doing that one quite a bit.
Right.
But the 30th anniversary, that's really, really notable. And it's funny, when we first started doing this page, I remember we had a lot of 20s and 25s, and it's like, oh, wow, 25 years since this. But like, we're just clicking them off for 30 years, which one's 31, 32, 33 years even. A lot of time has passed, greater than the amount of time that I've been on Earth. But 30 for the last Nirvana album. We're all getting older.
We are all getting older. Yeah, it is really interesting when the anniversaries go from 15 to 20 to 25 to 30. And I think speak for both of us and say that I think we've said that this is our favorite album.
Hands down, yeah, it's my favorite Nirvana
Yeah.
one. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't want to say it's not even close, but this album has some really great stuff on it. I mean, Serve the Servants, I've been on saying that's one of my favorite. Scentless Apprentice, Heart Shaped Box, if we're going down the line. I know you like Francis Farmer, Will Have Her Revenge on Seattle. It's a good one. And they finishes out with, All Apologies. And there's a lot of really good tracks on here. And I think that it's just a pure Nirvana kind of sound in a lot of ways. Like, I wanted to bring up Rape Me. I feel like that song, it's not underrated because it's one of their better ones, but maybe some people don't like to say it's their favorite one. But I think that song is actually really, really good. It's a tough name, maybe, it can be censored.
Yeah, I mean, it's peak Nirvana though, in terms of the songwriting.
Yeah,
exactly. And the interesting thing too is because like the historical record of this song, and also to a large extent not this song, rather the album, and to a large extent, the objective of this album was to make something that was so abrasive and so opposite, I think, of what Nevermind was. You know, they had that conscious choice that they made, that, you know, they brought in Albini, for example. They wanted to kind of make it a lot more abrasive and different. But man, like what we say all the time, I feel like when we talk about Nirvana, they wrote such great, I'm going to say it, pop music. And this album is no different. You know, the production was vastly different, obviously, not quite at all near what they did with Nevermind, but it's perfect. And the construction of the songs shine through. I mean, you just named, you know, a few of the songs on there, and it's just like hit after hit and powerhouse of a song after powerhouse of a song. And, you know, it's one of those things that, like, I feel like it was harder for them to make bad stuff than it was for them to make good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it seemed like everything they put out was really, really solid. Definitely aged well. I think, obviously, that this band aged, you know, I think really well. I guess it's 100%. Tough for me to say because when I wasn't there for the initial explosion of them, and they were obviously really liked. But, you know, when someone passes and when bands kind of disappear before their time, I think usually their stuff can find its way back, and you find a space for everything rather than, especially with a limited catalog. You know, usually you can find stuff that you maybe normally wouldn't praise as much as you do, and I find myself there. Like I'll listen to some random song throughout the albums and just be like, oh yeah, this song is really good, and probably a ton of people would not agree.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think the interesting thing for me as it relates to In Utero, you know, Kurt was fairly outspoken about the fact that this was kind of, you know, he said in an interview once that this album was kind of the closing of the chapter of 3-chord grunge for the band, and he went on to say, you know, not to say that they wouldn't play the old songs when they would play shows live, because obviously a lot of people really love and value the old songs, but they just felt, you know, that this was kind of like the last drop out of the well of 3-chord, you know, grungy, poppy type, you know, with the punk influences that they were doing. And for me, I think, you know, the opinions that people have on this album are tied hand in hand, and they will be forever with the personal speculations that everybody has about, you know, what would have come next. And you know, around 93 when this album came out, you know, there was a lot of speculation and there was a lot of, you know, press around it. And Kurt was like, I don't have any other material. And I don't know how much truth there was behind that, or whether it was like, I don't have any more good material. But like, you know, if this tapped them out at the time, I mean, it's still, you know, if this was like their last ideas, you know, at the end of the book, this is still pretty incredible. But, you know, you always can't help but think, but, you know, it does feel like this was kind of the end. And, you know, they had kind of said their piece through this sort of stylistic expression. And this is, I think, the perfect way to end like that style of songwriting and that type of playing that they had done, you know, for the several years that they were active.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I think that the episode that we did on this a while back, we did go fully through the album, and I think we talked about how all apologies being at the end of the album, being the last track, and like you said, kind of the last, you know, when he says that he's out of material and whatnot. It's kind of fun. It's kind of nice that they made that the last track to kind of bookend everything, because you know, lyrically, I think we really like that one, and you know, there's a lot of really good performances as well of it.
Yeah, and, absolutely. And something that I love with this album, the opening track and the closing track are just absolutely perfect. And I think they frame the time and place and the headspace that the band was coming from at this time, you know, with the expectation of being this voice of a generation and all of the alienation that Gen X was enduring at the time, and how Kurt was kind of thrust up as the spokesperson for all of that, you know, opening with Serve the Servants, and that opening lyric, you know, teenage angst has paid off well, now I'm bored and old. You know, I think like they were kind of at the forefront of that fatigue that a lot of people who loved their music would later feel as it relates to music and just to the world. And I think that's, you know, that foresight is almost chilling, but not in like the foreboding sense, but it's just like, holy shit, like they, you know, they knew. And then to close it out with a song as delicate as All Apologies, and, you know, kind of the ringing out of All in All is All We Are, I think it's just like a fitting bookend. And obviously at the time, I don't think anybody knew that this would be their last studio album. But I mean, the fact that like that is the last studio track, you know, for Nirvana, you know, forever, I mean, that song takes on a new light, I think, in the way that a lot of, for us in our lifetimes, when Chris Cornell died and when Scott Weiland died, a lot of their songs kind of take on a new light. After you lose an artist, I think All Apologies is one that, I think was transformed because of Kurt's untimely and his death, far before his time.
Yeah, this song, I feel like even if you're not a huge Nirvana fan, a lot of people really can enjoy this song and for what it is, because it has a really nice riff, if you will, and kind of guitar walk through the whole entire thing. And like you said, the ending is really quite awesome. And yeah, the beginning of the Scentless Apprentice, or Serve the Servants, that is, that one, me and Andy would talk about that a lot. And it's interesting because, he's only like 26, 27 when he probably thought of the lyrics, definitely,
right.
Obviously, right after. So he's, not that old, and, we're in the same position. We're not all that old. And then you talk to somebody else and who kind of lived, you talk to people that are older and stuff, and they echo, and that's why the lyrics always come through to the older generation, I guess. It's like, like when time passes, the teenage angst can only take you so far, and then it can be, you got to kind of move on. You get bored and old, that is.
Well, it's interesting too, because I feel like Kurt's writing does a really good job of articulating like the ebbs and flows of being, in a weird way, like in your 20s. And I don't know if this is naive or otherwise unwise of me to say, but like, I mean, I'm 26, right? And like, there's times, I mean, depending on what mood and what day you get me in, like sometimes I do feel quite old, which is really silly because, a person who's in their 70s is like, well, you have your whole life in front of you. And certainly I haven't dealt with a fraction of the things that Kurt Cobain had to deal with in terms of being in the public eye and, struggling with different types of, substance abuse and, mental illness and what have you. And, having a family, I haven't done those things. But it's kind of one of those things too, that I think at the time it's like, oh, like here's this really, really rich guy who's in his 20s and, he's got a wife, he's got a kid on the way, and he's wildly rich and wildly famous. Like, what does he have to complain about, or what does he have to be unsatisfied about? Like, that would do it for me. But I really do think he was writing from a very earnest perspective, and there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, it's like, if somebody tells you how they feel, you got to listen. And I think Kurt was doing that at this time, certainly. So Ethan, I have to ask you, within Utero, I'm sure if we went and listened back to the January of 2022 episode that we did on it, we also answered this question. But do you have a favorite from this one?
Well, yeah, I think in anticipation, maybe I got ahead of it. I'm going to pick Rape Me for my favorite.
Yeah.
Obviously, Serve the Servants, I usually use that one and say that one.
Right.
But I'm going to say Rape Me. I love the ending to it, the way he kind of yells back and forth with himself. And it has like it's like, I mean, it's not like, Smells Like Teen Spirit, but it also, I feel like it has that feel to it, but it's not Smells Like Teen Spirit. So I can, you listen to it, I have a little more tolerance to like listen to it. And I think it fits the album really well, and it's the aggressive Nirvana that we like. I think Drew, he probably doesn't, but I think Drew's favorite is Very Ape. I remember him saying that he liked
that would be Drew's favorite,
because he was infatuated with
Utero.
apes and whatnot. Yeah, so wanted to throw that in there, that maybe Very Ape is up there for him. How about amazing. You, Chris?
I'll tell you. I'm sure this was the same answer that I gave. Well, I'm pretty sure. Someone might prove me wrong, but I've been big on the Francis Farmer train for a long time, and the chorus of "I miss the comfort in being sad." That's something that I think, having gone through like a couple of years ago, like the first adult experience I had of being incredibly unhappy for a longer than I would have liked period of my life. And like looking back and experiencing like the holy shit, like why are you romanticizing that period in your life? Like stop, get away from it. Like there's nothing good back there for you. But yeah, that lyric it'll always stick out to me, because you do catch yourself sometimes being like, looking back at those moments. But I think it's good to look back. It's not good to, desire to return to those areas. You got to keep moving forward. And yeah, it's just a great Nirvana song. I mean, the conventions of writing that they had, so talented, and the way they played, fucking great.
Look back and wonder.
Yeah. Don't look back in anger.
Yeah, don't look back in anger. Yeah, I always say like, the comfort of being sad, and misery loves company is another one that like that.
Absolutely.
those like few words like I think about often, and like it can be so. With the misery loves company, like when you're hanging out, if you're hanging with the wrong people, they can really bring you down, and like
Totally.
it totally it shines through. Where like if somebody is really down, it's so easy to get caught in everything that's going on around you until you remove yourself or kind of put you in a space where you don't feel those pressures and whatnot. So it's a good line. Good line.
It's always out there. You just want to, try your best not to look it directly in the face, or make too long of eye contact with it. You gotta keep moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, but listen, I mean, Penny Royalty's on here. You got
people forget that Penny Royalty is
Box
on
and
this.
Dumb. I know people forget Penny Royalty. Yeah. That one's a good one. Obviously, that one's really fun.
Dumb acoustic. Too. Dumb's on there too. Got the cello coming in. Yeah.
So basically, with the 30th anniversary here, I think it's time you pick up In Utero and probably not put the CD in, but you're probably just gonna put your headphones in, listen to it right from the Bluetooth. So go ahead and give it a listen and go through the whole album, make it through, get to the end, go from that first lyric to the final lyric, little bookends, and maybe just see how it makes you feel. Maybe take extra notice, see if you can sense something different. If not, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But you never know. Let the music speak.
Exactly. And, for some people, if it's been a while since you've listened, you'll have entirely different feelings than other people. If it's been a while since you've listened, you'll listen and you'll remember the exact same feelings that you had when you first listened to it, or when you really, really listened to it quite frequently. So it's interesting to see kind of how that happens. Because I know for me, I have some albums that, it immediately makes me remember, but then other albums, that other songs or other artists even, it kind of evolves as I evolve, and that's the gift. You never know where this art and where these songs are going to take you, and the important thing is just to kind of let them take the driver's seat. Bring them where you're supposed to go.
All right, so the next order of business we have, I believe, is going to be talking about some concert venue etiquette maybe, and just a little story time, because we went to technically it was a festival. It's tough when it's a day festival. So it was basically just a bunch of bands played together, all on one stage, but we had some rain. So they were kind of going inside and outside at the Electric Factory. They changed the name to Franklin Music Hall.
But we don't call it the Franklin Music Hall.
Yeah, but no one really calls it that. If you had seen shows at the Electric Factory, you got to keep that name. It's historic. Soundgarden played there, like
they all came through at different points.
They've all played there. So
it's a great venue in Philly. So we were at the Loneliest Place on Earth Fest, which was it was an idea, and it was executed by the Wonder Years, who are a pop punk band from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, greatest city in the world. They're commemorating the 10-year anniversary of their album, The Greatest Generation, which came out in 2013, and they're kicking off a tour currently. That was the first show on the tour in earnest. Where they're playing that album front to back, and they're playing a second set that also kind of spans their career. So they started it in their hometown with a big old afternoon of music. They brought, I think, 7 other bands with them to play, on various stages at the Electric Factory. And Ethan, I was going down, a couple of my friends are really, really big Wonder Years fans, and I know I've talked about them on the show before. So we had made plans to go down to Philly, from New England, and spend a couple of days, go out, reconnect with some people that live down there, and go to the show on Saturday. And it just so happened that you were in your hometown, not too far from Philadelphia. So we got on the horn and made sure that you were able to get there. And I'll tell you, man, you came through. You always do, and I'm really glad that you were able to be there. And we were kind of able to have another experience like that together, because that's what it's all about, man. Like it was funny, I was doing a Q&A, like, just because I was bored on the car ride to Philly, and people kept asking me, like, I had 3 questions, and it was, what's the meaning of life? People asking me on the Grunge Bible Instagram page, and like, I think it's just to do cool shit and like spend time with your friends. Like, that's pretty much it. Like,
that's the meaning of life.
That was it. Like, just do cool stuff and have fun and just laugh and be happy. I think that's it. So, so we were able to go to the Loneliest Place on Earth Festival together. That was your first time seeing the Wonder Years, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the first time.
Awesome.
First time, and so there was some rain, right? And so you said some bands went inside, outside. We got there on 7, and we saw 3 bands before they came on, and they were kind of going in and out. And basically everybody played inside, and then the Wonder Years played outside, which I think was really good because then they could be set up, and they started right at 9, which if they had to do the changeover, there would have been, maybe some, it wouldn't have worked out. But they timed it out really well. And the 2 bands leading before them, was it Sweet Pill
and Origami Angel.
Origami Angel. Yeah. Origami Angel was a 2-person band, and they were really sick.
They
way
fucking
heavier.
Ripped. They were awesome.
They were really solid because it's not easy to do the 2-man thing. And then same with Sweet Pills. It was that was a lot of fun. And it was, the pit started opening up and whatnot, and it looked like the crowd, like I could tell the crowd was pretty, the crowd was into it, and they were pretty heavy and really liking the mosh and whatnot. And we were kind of going back and forth, and as far as I was with you a little bit, then I would go in the pit, and the group was kind of separated for a little bit.
Yeah. Because we didn't know if the next band was going to be inside or outside, because we didn't know what the weather forecast, and nobody really announced anything. So it was kind of like a weird element. I think there were people outside that would have been inside if they had known, and then there were people inside that were maybe thinking about going outside, but they didn't know. So it was a really strange. The vibes were weird for a little bit. Just trying to get situated. And I know we had already had a pretty long day too, that was full of a lot of different things. So, it was just kind of I feel like everybody was just kind of searching to get their footing, and kind of get their equilibrium back. But it was hard to do because everybody, for all intents and purposes, they were there to see the Wonder Years, and we didn't know what stage the Wonder Years were going to be on.
There were people that wanted to camp out and make sure that they were in the front. Right. But then once the show began, it didn't really matter. Because it started, and we got right into it. There was a massive push that basically pushed up it was 8 rows of people just scrunched into the front 8 rows. It was very intense. That initial push and then you just start swaying back and forth, and it went on. And I remember I was like, it's gonna it's gonna cool down. It's gonna be just give it a song or 2. But it the first 3 songs, people were very trying to figure out how the concert's gonna stand. How could you even stand in there? And then a couple of our buddies they got kicked in the face and their glasses came off, and they had to move and watch from the side, I believe.
Yeah, one of our friends had his glasses broken because he got kicked
immediately.
Immediately. Somebody else losing a hat. I saw a couple of people with cuts on their faces. Also really unfortunately, I think a lot of people got a little nervous when the show started and that crush started, and they had to get out of the pit. Ethan, you're much more experienced in pit environments than I am. And when people always, people ask, they're what's the craziest pit you've been in? It's a badge of honor. And that was it for me. That was a pretty intense environment as far as pits go. I think it had all of the elements to be unsafe at times, which is a bummer. And we're going to get to this question if, your pit experience can kind of ruin the show, because the band was awesome. I fucking love the Wonder Years. I've seen them 5 times. I'm seeing them 3 more times over the next month. But it was the vibes were tough. The vibes were tough in that pit.
Yeah, the vibes were the pit. I mean, the pit vibes. Yeah, it was a little off. So for my experience, and with this type of band, so they said they're pop punk or punk emo, and they have slower stuff too. And I think that's where and they also kind of appeal to a different demographic. If we're going to see Slayer or Metalhead,
right,
the people naturally, I feel the people are there's a bigger people and even more aggressive.
You know what you're getting into.
Yeah, those guys, the people there were drunk kind of and Philly and wanted to be in a pit, but I'm 6'3", 220. There wasn't many people there was four other people that were bigger than me. So the pit was very aggressive, but it wasn't I don't know. I've been in some crowds with some heavier stuff where the guys are bigger. Everybody's just way more physically, aggressive or physically. What's the word I'm looking for? Prominent. I guess.
Of stature. It's more, I guess.
Yeah, it's more danger. I feel there probably wasn't as many injuries as I thought there would be, because it was pretty hectic in there the entire time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so but that was really aggressive from the stuff that I've been into, for sure.
Okay, it was okay because I always get nervous.
I never felt unsafe though. I never felt unsafe though. But like I said, I'm bigger, and I felt like there's been like I got in, like I'll get into it. You saw me, and like the guys saw me. Like I get into the middle and stuff because I know that like people are gonna bounce off of me. I've been to shows where I'm like, I'm not getting in the middle there because I get punched in the face and I'll literally get knocked out by these guys.
Yeah.
So I never felt like really unsafe, but it was like people were acting outside of like what people were going crazy. It was seriously something.
They were. Like, I can see how shit happens, you know?
Yeah. Yes, of course. And like people were crowd surfing the entire time. And when you get crowd surfing going, like I said, the band has songs that people want to, listen to the lyrics and kind of be involved more versus like when there's a really heavy show, they just want to do the pit stuff. Yeah. Right. So the problem is it really interferes with songs that like people are trying, because then you gotta always have your hand like above your head. Yeah. I'm always kind of like right here with your hands by your face, and I think that's the problem with like an over aggressive kind of for a band like that when it ruined the songs that people were looking forward to.
Yeah, it was tough too because like right behind the circle was where a lot of people were launching into the sky, and like the crowd
people that were not.
Right, the crowd was always lurching forward, and like I was probably like 3 or 4 rows, quote unquote, from the front, from the rail, and like it was so tight up there that like I saw the people coming, and like it was our job to like get our hands on and like bring them across the rail, but like you're packed so tightly together that if your hands were by your side, you physically could not get them up because there was nowhere to go. And like I felt really awful because I'm like, well shoot, like somebody's got to get hands on this person to make sure they don't fall. And like I saw people around me, like a couple people fell from coming over the top, and that's always very unsafe. But I think it was just an accumulation of things where like I don't think there was like people made a conscious choice to engage in assholery. It was just like it was a long day. The weather was kind of crazy. Like people probably a little strung out from like drinking all day. It was the last set, the one that you're there for. It's really exciting. It's a huge Philly show, like the biggest one. Like, but for me, like, when I wasn't kind of making sure that like people weren't falling around me, like you looked at the band and like you could tell how much it meant to the band to play, their home city, on such a big occasion to commemorate, their best or most meaningful album. And that was really, really cool. And I'm excited that I get to see this tour 3 more times, maybe less intense atmospheres. But man, like the music,
I'm sure it'll be way better.
Yeah, I think so too. The music will be great. The crowd, I think, will be better. So now the question is, Ethan, in your opinion, can a crowd ruin a show?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, after this concert, like there was a group of like 8 of us, and Wonder Years is like I really like them and stuff, but I hadn't seen them before. I didn't really expect anything to say. And I also enjoy like some moshing, but like it ruined it for people in our group.
It was funny because we all came
flat
back.
out like
I think it's fair to say that like I am a bigger Wonder Years fan than you are, and a lot of the people in our group were exponentially bigger Wonder Years fans than me.
Right.
Like we're talking like having seen like 20 plus shows of them.
Yeah.
And like it was funny because like we weren't able to have the conversations during the show, obviously, but like afterwards, like I've seen shows with these people before, like seen Wonder Years, and like you debrief, right? And like everyone like came and it's like, so how was it? And like we all kind of like looked at one another. I was like, well, not great.
Yeah, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
that was the worst show that I've seen of them.
Yeah.
It's so 100%. I mean, if you're going in wanting one thing and it's totally different, I mean, it is totally not enjoyable. I mean, like I said, really similar thing happened to me. That free block party show in Philadelphia. Like I said, the Panic at the Disco came on. They're not a heavy band,
right? But
the crowd, it was a free show. People were showing up to get drunk on a Saturday in Philadelphia. There was a free concert with a couple bands and stuff. Mm-hmm. So you go in there and see what's up, and absolutely, just pushed everybody. It was way too tight, just like up against people, and it ruined it. And then I mean, I didn't really expect much for Panic at the Disco, but it really stuck the fork in them for me. I hated them after that. I was like, screw them and their followers, but it wasn't even their followers. Yeah. So I think the crowd can easily take it away and make it less. Well,
fun. I think it's just one of those things that in the words of Durst, it was just one of those days, which is fine, because most of the 4 other shows that I've seen, like the crowd at the Wonder Years shows have been like so unbelievably kind and like supportive and like just good natured. And this one, you know,
It's hard to believe.
it's just not one of those days. But you know what? Like we were talking after and one of our friends kind of made the point. It's like, you know what? This show was for the band. Like, you know, they're kicking off, like they made this festival happen. You know, they're kicking off the 10th anniversary tour. Like they didn't think they'd, you know, make it 2 years, let alone 10, let alone 18. You know, this one was for them. So I'm okay with that. You know, like the first 4 that I've seen of them, you know, those were for me. This one's for them. And, you know, I've got 3 more this year, and, you know, maybe a couple of those will be for me, one of them for them, or, you know, we'll see. But it was an experience. I'm glad that I went though. And I'm glad that we were all there together.
Well, let me have 2 things. One, do you think that, and it's funny because I asked PD, like, you know, when you can tell if your crowd is really drunk or really rowdy, like, do you think that he, you know, when he sees that, like that was what he was looking for, / like, you know, that makes, as someone playing up front, like how into it the band, everybody is in. Do you think he was like pretty happy with it? Because it was, if he was, you know, playing, you know, the response basically, like,
right.
He spoke a lot and people were responding.
Yeah. I think like the natural breaks were really important, and like he was talking in between some songs, and, you know, on The Greatest Generation, there's a song that they play acoustically called Madeline, which was very important that an acoustic song came out at that point in the set to kind of, you know, get everybody down a little bit. And it's also difficult too, because like, I think when I was in it, like, I don't know. I feel like people, myself included, might have the tendency to like recall it as being much more dramatic and intense as it might have been. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure artists, I mean, these guys have been playing, you know, for 18, 20 years of their lives. I'm sure they can tell, you know, what's kind of going on. So I think that they were intentional about kind of like, you know, talking in between some songs and everything, which was really good. And he's always, Soupy, the lead singer, like, he's always been a really good steward of the crowd. And I think, you know, some of those breaks and like talking points, I think were intentional for that. So I appreciate that.
And the other question I was going to say and ask is, do you regret standing as close as you did? Like,
so it's always a question, because I'm like, you know, I could stand further away and just not have to deal with any of this, but I'm like,
yeah,
but then I won't be at the front. So I gotta be at the front. Like for me, you just make the choice. Like I am going to view this show from here, and from like this area. Like I would like to be here, and it's part of the experience, you know. It's good to be, you know, to be in stuff like that sometimes, as long as, you know, you're safe in the end, and the people around you are safe. And, you know, I think we all were, you know, so we, luckily, like I'm sturdier than, you know, some of the smaller people in the pit. And Ethan, can we talk about that, that young lad who was, he must've crowd surfed 20 times. What do we think?
I bet you like close to 100. I'm not kidding. There was this 13-year-old boy.
I think he was younger.
Yeah, he may.
I think he was like 10 or 11.
He was like skinny ripped jeans, you know, etnies shirt, whatever, you know, a little dyed hair off to the side, you know, 100 pounds, and he was just being crowd surfed. And the reason I say that is, I mean, I crowd surfed during the show. Got up there because we were talking about it. Got you guys to hold my phone. Went up there. You know, they gave me a water, put me out. Great. And it was right before the first set. And then the little guy came and ran
right before the first set ended.
Yeah, first set before the ended. And I asked the security guy, I was like, how many times he came through? And he said 12 to 15. But then for that song, he came through another 3 times.
Because that's like an 8-minute song. The last song on that album is like 8 minutes long.
Yeah. But he still, that was like 3 or 4 times in that one song. And he was up, and I saw during another, when I was in the pit, I saw him go up 3 times during one song. So if they played, you know, how many songs do you think they played? They played for 2 hours total.
Yeah,
so
they probably played like 22 songs, I would say.
Yeah. I think he went up at least an average of 2 times per song. So he's over 50.
He's almost pushing 50. Every time I look,
he's definitely over 50. He definitely was over 50. I mean, it was the safest place for him to be in the air.
Yeah, you're honestly right. It was the safest place.
But it was just funny. He like ran by, he grabbed a water, drank a little bit, and like all of a sudden he just get back up there. And
again.
It was like
into the flood again.
Dude, one time he came up and I was just like, send him back. And I pushed him like back. And then naturally he made his way to the front, and this girl turned. I was like, don't send him back. He's just going to keep going. Or like, don't send him back. And I was like, someone's got to stop all of this. But
what can you do, right? But overall,
But
that was great, and we surrounded the show with a lot of there was a lot of new lore being written throughout. It's always great. If you listen to last week's episode, you're aware of the legend of Eddie Feiner. We were able to share that with our friends. We were able to share the legend of canned heat with some of our friends. We were able to get into roofball a little bit. We got into the in a lot of ways we met the Hat Man. We kind of explained the legend of the Hat Man to a lot of people, and how Kim Thiel has seemingly gotten tied up in a lot of this stuff for us. But it's one of those times, Ethan, like we've kind of made the decision, like whenever we get to see one another, like if it's not just like a day trip, if there's like a night of sleep involved, like it just goes without saying, like you get as little sleep as possible. You just stay up, you drink, you do whatever you need to do, and you just have fun, So I'm glad that we were able to do that. Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. Yeah, the Hat Man was the newest one, man. The Hat Man came through and we tried to watch a bunch of YouTube videos and trying to summon the Hat Man.
Absolutely.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
but
we'll be back.
Yeah, it's always really fun to have just time to see you. And I think we will be, the next time we see each other will be in November, which we'll be seeing the Front Bottoms together in Alabama before going to our friend's wedding in Charleston. So that'll be really sweet.
Right on, man. I'm excited. I haven't seen a show in Birmingham, obviously. I've never been to Charleston, so I'm looking forward to that. I've also never gone to one of my friends' weddings with you, so that'll be check that one off the list.
That's crazy.
It's gonna be really, really good. But it was a fitting first Philadelphia show for me. I think we were in the land of Schwarber.
I've been to a few shows in Philly, and usually the crowd is way different. The Birmingham crowds, it's the city to city is so different.
I don't want to sound snobby, but like I think Boston has really good crowds. I think the crowds in Boston, like they're very drunk crowds, but they're not belligerently drunk. At least in my experiences with the shows that I've been to. So I will hang my hat on that. I'm a part of that ecosystem.
That's good. I believe you. I believe you.
Yeah, we gotta get you up here, man.
I know. Hopefully for the PD show. That's what I was thinking.
That's gonna be tough. That's a week after the wedding in Charleston. It's the following weekend.
Yeah, I think I have something that weekend actually. So
that's all right.
If it's the week after, then it's gonna be really difficult.
We'll figure it out. So I've got a pretty busy week of shows coming up. So this is September 11th. We're recording this on Monday. On September the 14th, which is Thursday, I see 1,000 Mods in Boston at my favorite venue, the Middle East Downstairs. And then this weekend, I see the Wonder Years once again. I got a little bachelor party weekend scenario going on in Atlanta, Georgia. So I'll see them again. And then I get off the plane, and then the following night, next week, I see the Brian Jonestown Massacre in Boston too. So that'll be a fitting end to this like mini concert and friendship and fellowship bender that I've been on.
Whose idea? So this is not with Eddie Vedder got me through my second divorce. So
I'm not seeing any shows with. I'm not seeing any shows of the ones that I just mentioned with Eddie Vedder got me through my second divorce.
So you'll be in Atlanta. Whose idea was it to see a Wonder Years show? Was it yours then?
No, it was not mine. It is the groom-to-be who loves the Wonder Years, but because of where he works and where he lives in the country, he has like the worst. The worst experience. Like if like they're touring here, he's over there. If they're touring there, like he's over here. So like he's never been able to see them, and he's a really, really big Wonder Years fan. So I don't think he's seen them in quite some time. So I think it just so happened that they picked Atlanta as the bachelor party weekend spot. Maybe the best man did. I don't know. I received the invite, and I was told, one of the activities will be going to a Wonder Years show. So I mean, sign me up. I'm in.
Easy enough. That's pretty awesome.
Nice and simple.
It's fun to do.
That's what we're going to be doing.
Away concerts, away shows,
Yeah, exactly. A nice little
road games,
trips.
Shows.
See how I play on the road. See how my skills translate to other fields. So that'll be good. But once again, Ethan, another quality weekend in the books, and I think another quality podcast episode about to be rubber stamped and sent out into the world. We thank you all for taking the time to listen to this episode. As we said, play some in Utero this week. Get out to some shows. You know, that's where you have fun, because I guess that's the meaning of life. Just do cool stuff and have fun. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, store up some memories.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Chris, do you want to do Song of the Week?
Yeah, I think we should do Song of the Week. Yeah, right now. It just started to rain a little heavily where I'm at. So, I think that might make its way into the recording, but that's a Drew problem. That's not me.
Oh.
It adds to the ambiance of the show.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
So my Song of the Week. Yeah, can I go?
Yeah, you're up. You go up
I'm
first.
a little excited. I am going to pick a song from The Greatest Generation, The Wonder Years, and I'm going to pick I Just Want to Sell Out My Funeral. It is the final song on the album. It is the one where that young lad went over the top like 7 times. It's a really, really great song. I love it when artists do this, but it calls back to a bunch of songs that appeared earlier on the album, whether it be the melodies or the lyrics or the concepts or the characters in different songs. And it kind of ties it all together, a big theme of the record. So it's a really, really great song. It's a long one. You can really get into it. And, yeah, man, I just love this band. They're the band that I've seen the most live, and I'm running up the score a little bit because I'll see them 3 more times this fall. Right. But that's what it's about. You gotta. I think everybody should have those bands. It's like if they're within X miles of my house, you just buy a ticket and you just figure out the plan. So that's one of those bands for me, the Wonder Years. So that's gonna be my Song of the Week. What about you?
I think I'm going to also, that's a good song. That's one of my favorites by them, I think, as well. I think I'm going to go ahead and say the song that I wanted to hear over the weekend that I did not get to hear. It's Cigarettes and Saints, and that's off the No Closer to Heaven album, which I think came like 2 years after 2015. And this song, I had it sent to me randomly from a friend who had just lost their brother like a year before. Jesus. Yeah, and he was young. I mean, he was maybe 30 or something, but battled some drug abuse and whatnot. And in the beginning, I just remember her saying how much it meant to her, and like the beginning, and I listened to it, and the beginning was just so much, and like they're a really close family to us too. So it was a tough loss for everybody, and it was just like such a very strong. I mean, it was just. The lyrics just got to me like immediately. Yeah. And then obviously the song progresses and gets big, and just a really, really solid song, and always has really good meaning. So I was really hoping to hear that, because that would have been an easy one for me to shed a tear. But who knows what it came out if it would have been on that show. So maybe it's good I save it for I guess in 2 years they'll do a 10-year anniversary for that album. Or something.
Absolutely.
So
I love that song. I've cried listening to that one live before, so that gets my seal of approval. Yeah, that's a really fucking heavy song, especially having a personal connection to the subject matter. So 2 great songs from the Wonder Years. I have to say, I think the Wonder Years are probably the band that has been mentioned the most on this podcast that's not grunge or grunge related. It's either got to be the Wonder Years or Petey, right?
Yeah, or the Front Bottoms.
Yeah, or the Front Bottoms, yeah. So we've got like a big 4.
The beginning was Modest Mouse. Maybe we were talking about
we were
Modest
big
Mouse.
on the Modest Mouse. We still have to do an episode on Modest Mouse. I'm still jonesing for that. I'm jonesing with curiosity.
We'll do it with Petey.
Yeah, that would be good. Hopefully we can make that happen.
Yeah, let's make that happen. And yeah, I think you're right. The Wonder Years come up like a ton. People are probably listening to be like, Jesus Christ, shut up. They don't know what we're talking about. Go listen. Find out.
Go listen. You'll learn what we're talking about. I used to not like pop punk either. I used to think it's too fast. It's no good. They're just yelling and they're too weirdly riffy. But you know what? You got to have an open mind, and you got to, like we said about In Utero, you got to let the music take you where it knows you need to go, because you're always going somewhere. So let it happen. It's going to be good for you. Well, Ethan, just about wraps are all up.
Yep. Thank you guys. Thanks everybody for listening. And we will see you same time, same place next week. And we'll try to do better as we do every week.
Rock and roll, gang.
See ya.